nature to becoming a part of nature once again. The Red Sea project is located between Al-Waj and Umluj on the west coast of Saudi Arabia, in an area comprising a pristine archipelago of 90 islands, teeming with coral and sea life, spectacular mountains, rolling dunes, and even dormant volcanoes. We've been constantly breaking new ground in building on our promise, and to date, we've awarded key contracts to partners who share our vision. Our hub islands continue to build momentum. Created in partnership with some of the world's leading architects and designers. And work on a new international airport, designed by the award-winning architect Foster & Partners, is well underway. Connecting all these locations are the newly completed roads, jetties and causeways. Upskilling young Saudi talent is also our priority. For example, a partnership with the University of Prince Muqrin has provided 120 scholarships for international hospitality management degrees, accredited by École Hôtelière de Lausanne. Conservation is a must, sustainability a step in the right direction. Saudi Arabia's groundbreaking vision is coming to reality, and this luxury flagship destination will deliver new standards in hospitality. This is what the Red Sea Development Company is all about.
I'm not sure why this video is now. It's a dessert. I should have it in the end. So I'm not sure why would you get it now. Yeah. But anyway, you deserve it anyway. So yeah, we have Paulina joining us. Paulina, hi. How are you? Where are you joining us from, by the way?
Hello. I am in Santiago, in Chile. It's the south of the planet. So I'm very happy to join you.
Nice
from
having
this far away.
Nice having you, Paulina. All right, so I think our panelists are all on board now. So yeah, let's get started. And I think thank you again very much for all of you attending. But I think it would be good to have another kind of introduction to everybody and who you are, or what kind of belief in terms of dark sky. What is your vision? What's the definition of dark sky to you? We start by Courtney. What is a dark sky to you, or what does it mean really? So you can share the message.
You know, I'm gonna take that from a small quote from IDA actually, and it's very near to me because I grew up in a very rural part of Arizona called Carefree, Arizona, which had 0 streetlights. And I remember kind of looking up at the sky and being able to see the sky as a child. And I think dark skies isn't, you know, I think it's always a very controversial topic, especially in this region, because, you know, we are very much like Hong Kong is with light shows and a lot of theatrical lighting applications. But dark skies doesn't mean dark skies meaning dark ground. It means dark skies, but not dark ground. And I think that's a really important topic to discuss and, say the difference between the two, because we're not saying that we don't want light on the ground, because light makes people very comfortable and makes people be able to see and navigate through cities, but also in rural places. So for me, I mean, it stems from a childhood experience of being able to see the stars. Moving to New York City, again, a city of lights, very much like Dubai is known for, and not being able to see the stars and being able to actually count them. You know, in a dark sky place, which there's a few, you know, there's a ton in the world, but there's very few dark sky cities. I think there's literally 2 in the US that are actually acclaimed dark sky. One of them is Flagstaff, which is in Arizona. IDA is out of Tucson, Arizona. Yeah. And so it's just about, you know, being able to really see the stars when you are in a city and being able to appreciate that. And I think one out of 3 people, at least in the US, I can't speak for globally, but in the US have never actually seen the Milky Way. So, yeah.
Okay, all right. And Patricia, what is your take on dark sky from a personal level? Like, what is dark sky to Patricia?
Okay, so personally,
Yeah.
it has been my biggest challenge career-wise for the last year because after living in Dubai for 12 years and working for different companies and then for MR, which were very commercially driven. That means that we wanted to light our buildings, make them beautiful, and we weren't fully aware of what actually the effect was on the sky. I've joined now the Red Sea, which has a complete different focus. So it's all about preserving the dark skies, taking care of the sensitive species, and also creating a guest experience that's unforgettable. So for me personally, it's been a biggest challenge, and at the same time, one of the biggest inspirations so far, because I've learned, as I mentioned earlier in the pre-interview, to embrace darkness. So as lighting designers, we're taught how to use light, right? But we aren't really aware of how to actually use darkness. So for me, going back to the beginning, it's been a challenge, but actually I've seen the change in the way that I approach design, that I see different buildings now. So I think it's one of the biggest gifts career-wise as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
And David, I know that you've been around for a couple of years in this part of the world, and it's good to know if the word or the term dark sky has been fairly diluted and misconceived now in terms of the true value of it, given the demands of lighting, demands of active cities, and all these things. Do you think this is something that has been kind of a lost art that we need to resurrect of some sort, or it's still there?
No, I actually think it's still there. I think what people actually conceive about dark sky is that, as you say, it's dark ground. That's not what it's about. Right? For me, dark skies is all about using energy efficiently. It's putting light where we need the light. It's not flooding the sky. It's not going through the windows of the population. It's creating a sense of well-being within the city. But it's all about making sure there's sustainability.
Yeah.
So we have to light the streets. We understand that. We have to light the roads. We have to make sure traffic can move safely and with some speed. We have to make sure that residents feel comfortable to walk within the streets. This also helps towards the feeling of social inclusion. People can actually come out. They can use the streets.
Yeah.
But when it comes to astronomy, we should still be able to see the stars. When we have light pollution, we're not using the energy efficiently. So we are harming the whole population here by using a very good resource that should not be abused.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
And light is one of these things that unfortunately is abused.
Okay, and Dr. Hassan, I think we've met a few years ago, as I mentioned, and I think I envy this gentleman quite a bit because we've been in one of his events and we see traffic, we see malls, we see towers, we see a moon or a sunset. But this gentleman sees, all right, I saw like 4 or 5 moons yesterday. I saw a couple of other planets. I've seen this galaxy, and there's like in a whole different universe by yourself. And I think it's, but the reason I'm envying you is the fact that there is so much beauty around us that we simply, some of us never experienced, and some of us are so thrilled by it, but they know it's just something they would never have. So do you think, for people who've never seen the outside beauty, ever, do you think how is that, would this be something that people will be looking forward to? Is that something like it's a given, it's a must-love kind of, because we are all inherently connected to nature? Or you feel that, no, there might be resilience to going for that kind of a darker environment to appreciate the surrounding beauty?
Well, this is a story to be told, in sense that if you look at it, most of the people, the new generation, they haven't seen the sky the way we saw it. I mean, in my childhood, the panelists, they have also witnessed the sky according to their background, and they know exactly what they are anticipating to go. I mean, when we go to this desert or dark areas, we look at the sky, at the glory, and we appreciate as we have seen it. But what about people who did not see it absolutely? They were not exposed to it. They didn't anticipate to see it. Here is the thing. Here's the catch. Yes, I definitely encourage the people to go to the desert, dark areas, to see the full glory of the night sky. It's by means, as you're saying, Walid, it's mesmerizing. The view itself is unbelievable. You cannot anticipate that such kind of beauty still exists in the sky, which is obscured from you, hidden from you because of the light glare. So going out and looking at it and connecting with it creates a mesmerizing experience, which you want to repeat it again and again and again. That's what you have seen, Walid, and this is what I'm inviting the people to look to it. Then you will say that, then you will understand exactly what we are talking about. The beauty of the nature is beyond comprehension. And when you look yourself to the universe, you find your size. How big, how significant you are in the whole total picture of the universe.
You know, one point to add to this. When we went to this event, you had all your telescopes set up, and we peeked through one of them, and we saw Saturn, and it was crystal clear how it looks like, and it's just so mesmerizing, like you said. And it's like you're right there on the planet, literally. And it was so incredible. And it was like one of those moments, it just stuck right there, and I never forgot how it is. But a year later, we wanted to have the same event because I was so thrilled to have similar experience. And we had done the whole setup, and it was a cloudy evening, and despite everybody went in the desert, we were all set up, and boom, we couldn't see anything. And it was quite a frustration to know that it's right there, but you cannot see it. And I think this has to do a lot with, we are right in the middle of it, but yet with all things going on, you simply can't. So Paulina, this comes to you because you're in a different part of the world, and I'm not sure how much you're exposed personally to dark sky environments. Maybe you can touch base on that and tell us what is your perception in terms of where you live right now, the drive of dark sky as from a design community.
So I share very much with, I think I'm going to take this because I hit myself twice. I share very much the perception of Patricia and Courtney about the connection with the dark sky and the connection with the light in the sky. I grew up in the Atacama Desert, which is, well, I'm a desert, in this desert brotherhood. The Atacama Desert is the driest place on earth. And that makes something that between you and the stars are less things. So you just see it very close. So when I was a child, until I started studying the university here in Santiago, is the main city, the dark sky, or the starry night full of lights, which is, I think, is not the dark sky when you really are able to see the star. The night is full of light. It's a different way of light. It's a very humble, full of tiny things, a magnificent connection with the clean nights. And that was part of my daily landscape, or more precisely my nightly landscape. And I remember, for instance, with some events, my father were fan of astronomy, and he wake up sometimes very early in the morning and say, let's go to see this comet, or let's go to see this event. And we went out from the house. The town where I live was kind of it has a shape like an amphitheater. So we just walk a little bit up, and we were able to see everything. And everything was full of light. It was not dark, It's and also I remember when I was a child, playing outside in close to the beach. When my mommy says, let's go to sleep, kids, it's too late. I say, a little bit more, please. He said, okay, 3 shooting stars, and then you come in. So after 3 shooting stars, we went into to sleep. So 3 shooting stars were not more than half an hour. So when you have this as a connection to the sky, that probably um, if we if the cities were designed for controlling pollution, it would be a possibility for more people and
Yeah.
more experience. When I went to study in Santiago and then I studied in Germany and I spent some years around the Baltic in Sweden and Finland, I felt that it was something missing. And also when I started my career in the lighting design and studied lighting design, uh, in one side there all the people from the lighting design field, we were amazing, but putting lights everywhere. But somehow there is a limit,
Yeah.
and that limit is the connection with the sky. And I mentioned also in my presentation that it's very important the connection with the sky for astronomy, because if the astronomers basically study where we come from, where we're going, but also for everybody, it's very important the connection with our cultural heritage. Because if you think that every one of us comes from a culture where probably the base of that culture, the foundation of the in history of our culture, were somehow a connection with the
Yeah.
sky.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That's fair enough. Now I get from all of you how passionate you are about dark sky. Let's go down to business now and see really what the hell is going on here and how we really, because you see a lot of value to the dark sky, and I know because you see it firsthand and you've seen it yourselves and you experienced it and you're advocates towards it in many ways. Now, for people who don't and you feel that this is something really important and you push forward towards, my question now comes in. It has been, dark sky is nothing new. It has always been there before our even existence. So how come in the last few years, in particular in this part of the world, it has become a drive to designs, to developments, to something to look forward to? At a time, like Patricia, you said you are in an environment before where it's commercially driven, we need to activate, we need to make placemakings and so many things. And now that's the full reverse of everything that is happening. The full momentum is kind of reversed now. Like, let's go back to the starting point. So where is this coming from? Is this maybe part because we are starting to inhabit new grounds and has this opportunity? Or you feel that there is a more depth to this kind of drive to the design?
Okay, so I guess in particularly for the Red Sea, that was a desire that came from the master plan creation, and something very beautiful about it is that the master plan was conceived taking into account not only the commercial part, but mainly the environmental part. So that's where the inspiration came from. And I think it's because the vision is about creating future places of tourism or hospitality developments that are different to what we have. So we have so many beautiful hotels in Dubai, in Japan, in Seoul that have media facades and everything. The new tourists, the luxury tourists as well, the travelers, are looking for the next experience, for something that they haven't seen before. So I think that's where it comes from the vision. I guess that at some point, when lighting started becoming more of a means of communication than functional, we kind of overdid it, as Mr. Hassan said. So right now, I think it's the moment to step back and say, okay, how can we use it consciously? How can we use it with awareness? How can we consider the effect that it has on the species, on the humans, on the sky quality, and then go back to the roots and create something original? Maybe also it can be that after COVID, I'm looking for nature,
Yeah.
you know. So maybe that's something. Well, the mass brand was conceived way before then, but I think that now more than ever, the tourist is looking for other type of experience. So I think that's the
Okay.
way. Yeah.
Now, Courtney, a difficult question for you, because why not?
What?
So, you're a lighting designer, and you have experienced dark sky yourself. But as I mentioned, a lot of people haven't, and a lot of lighting designers are in the room. So, where do you think, where is the first challenge from the lighting design industry, whether it's designers or manufacturing, whatever that is? Where do you feel will be the first or main struggle? So, like, hang on, actually, you're a lighting designer, I don't want lights, or I want minimal light. So I really need you to think to your input will be at the least possible. So where do you think is the challenge from the lighting?
I think from the lighting side, I think it's actually public realm and exterior lighting that is the biggest challenge. Interior lighting is like, I mean, the panel before on exterior and public realm was really interesting because they were talking about the buildings becoming lanterns, you know, but then we talk about all this glass that is actually stopping the light from traveling outside. But you know, I think the biggest challenge is going to accept the plethora of fixtures that are actually available for full cutoff fixtures. The light quality is something, and the light color is something that actually in the Middle East particularly, especially now with LEDs, right? If you want a dark sky and you want to be the best efficiency on that, you know, people tend to go towards a cooler light, but actually it's the warmer light that is better for the trees, the plants, the people, and also for the animals, right? I think the first project where I had was a couple years ago, and it was for a new chetty in Ras Al Had that banked up against a turtle nesting site. Now, for this region, that is very rare, where we actually had to really think about that because, you know, turtles will not make it to the sea if they are then distracted by light. That also goes for birds. It goes for trees. If you look at trees that are out in a very rural space, you'll notice that they grow with the light, and at night they know that it's nighttime. I mean, yet trees are not living and breathing, but they're still alive. And then you'll notice trees that are exposed to a lot of exterior lighting. The leaves will never grow the same. They don't actually know that it's time to sleep. They don't understand it's time to grow. And I think that that's a huge challenge, particularly in this region where, you know, we are just enveloped in kind of like a shield of light. And so how do we then start thinking about, you know, products that are actually going to come to this market and stick, right? So there's regulations in the States for these products. They're certified. They're a little bit more available. And here I think it's just not, to date, not been in the market as like a big ticket item. So it's, you know, that's the biggest challenge. I think it's going to be the exterior because you think about being in your apartment, and this happens to me all the time. I have to put the blackouts on when I sleep, and that's not my normal habitat to put the shades down in my residence. But I have to do that because why? Because light trespass and glare. So it's a big issue, and it's going to have to start with people too, is realizing that they don't want this, and turn off the big signage lighting that you were speaking about before, Waleed, and, you know, try to take action.
David, from a municipal government levels, and this is not something like Dr. Hassan said. It's not something that you can easily achieve within an active city, and it needs to have some sort of distance and separation from the very active current scenarios of lifestyle that we're facing nowadays. So do you think there is a vision from governments and from municipalities to create these kind of destinations to reconnect with nature? Or do you feel that this is something that needs more push from advocates and people who are promoting more the sustainable lifestyle?
For us in Abu Dhabi, if you look in our lighting manual, we have a whole section on reduction of obtrusive light. We stop light trespassing through the windows. Every design for road lighting or within a development or within public realm must carry out a report and a study on obtrusive light. We set targets. We have targets that say no light through the windows. We have a curfew and an after curfew. We have lighting levels that say, at night, we now dim the lights. Right? We're taking all of this away. We are not giving an option to flood the skies. We want the light to be used and used correctly. So the Abu Dhabi Lighting Manual actually has all of this within it. And without doing these studies, no design will be passed. Right? There's no approval for designs that put light through windows where you need blackout curtains. Abu Dhabi really looks at this extremely carefully. We're trying to make sure that everybody understands when to use light, what time to switch the light off.
Yeah.
So in our municipal parks, we actually have a curfew. We say during the week, anything non-essential, so road lights or security lights, will be switched off at 11 p.m. At the weekend, 12 p.m. So you have to give us a whole scenario of what your management regime will be for all these lights. And I think this is the only way, as you say, there has to be something there. There has to be a standard. There has to be a specification. And this year, I'll now look at the amount of light coming from the screens that are in the streets, right? We see some as I drive back from the office or into Abu Dhabi.
Don't say the name of the building or the name
Right,
of the
and
screen. Trust me.
they're blinding at night. And they're just throwing all of this light everywhere. No, this year we're looking at how to reduce this, how to put a cap on this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because this is just obtrusive light, and it's just a waste.
It's a waste. It's, it affects your mood, your atmosphere, the way that you come home to relax, and then you come home to an environment that you have to put curtains down, or the second you go outside, you're just jarringly trying to look away from this advertisement that are trying to draw you in, but actually, I mean, my reaction to that is not that it's a good thing. I don't want to look at it. I look away. And so I think, there has to be some cap and regulations, and timing has to be there. And I mean, it would be amazing to have an ordinance for Dubai. It's going to take a lot of time and a lot of people and a lot of effort to get that in. But I think, people are realizing it, and that's the first step.
Yeah.
Honestly.
But we even ask people. I was out doing light measurements, and we asked some people who were using our newly lit footpaths. I said, "What do you think of the lights?" And they said, "We came for a romantic walk. Now we go home with a headache." So all signs of romance are now gone. And it's all about taking into account the ambient light. You don't have to have huge glaring lights absolutely every place.
Yeah.
Right? As you said, you can actually use shadow to make places more interesting. Right? So a designer should understand how to use darkness, light, and shadow to say there's something maybe more interesting around the corner. Let's walk around, and then you can light maybe a monument or a statue. But it's all about understanding how you use light. And I think it's something that we still have to teach lighting designers.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's that appreciation for darkness, and it's not being scared of the dark. But that also is something that it comes from a child, and then it's it's like the boogeyman, and then it's like, oh, the scary things hang out in the dark. And I think that that's wrong, because you see the most beautiful things in the dark. And if we could just tone that down a bit and come together in a platform that works, and we approve these things and band together instead of kind of fight on that. And I think there's a place and time for advertisement. I'm not trying to push it all out the door, but I mean, just like Hong Kong has a light show, they have at a specific time.
Yeah. Exactly.
And I think that it would be great if we had that same thing, because I would like to see a Dubai light show. I think with all the amazing facade lighting that we have here and the amazing buildings and things that we have going on, that would be an incredible draw. But there's a time for that, and then it stops, and they don't run that all night.
That's true.
Right?
I just bought a new house in the UK, and my wife's first instruction was no street lights. So we bought in the countryside. We grew up in the countryside.
Exactly.
So we have this ability to go and see the stars.
But I thought by now, David, you can have a control on the street lightings globally. So I think you can literally switch them off in your street back home. So I wouldn't worry about that. All right. So because we have a lot of designers and enthusiasts about lighting, Dr. Hassan, I have I have a request to give an advice to the people who create spaces, whether it's architects or lighting designers or so on. Because there is a lot of trend to create these kind of environments, but primarily from a hospitality and temporary stays rather than permanent living environments. From your experience, how long, and I'm not talking about adaptation, I'm talking about to be fully immersed in a dark sky experience and actually enjoy it, and actually see it and appreciate it and start to fall in love with it. Because these are temporary stays. I'm talking like people going there for 2 days, 3 days, 5 days, a week or so. Is that enough, or do you think no, they need to be immersed for longer period, they need to look at it for more of a longer stays than the short ones because it's not going to trigger them?
Okay, to tackle this issue, let me rephrase the things out, how to bring back the dark sky to our neighborhood, just like a Spider-Man, huh? Bringing the back to the neighborhood. The idea starts with a very simple style. It's kind of an habit. We have to develop education. We have to spread the knowledge, starting with you, the professionals, who will take these ideas in the consideration of designing itself, suggesting to the end customer what could be the most useful and healthy practices, to moving the things out, yes, exactly, how we can replace the light with something useful light. I'll give an example, for example. If a villa has been built, they would like to light up the walls. The question is for whom? Okay. The second question, do I have to switch on the full-fledged light for my door while everybody's sleeping in the home? Can't we replace it with infrared? Option is on the table immediately, and maybe it could be cost-effective more.
Yeah.
Seeing this kind of technology which can mix match with the requirement and give a better results for everyone. That's what we're talking about. We are not talking about somebody is losing or somebody winning. We are talking about everybody is winning. The environment is winning, the person is winning, our pockets are winning. So that makes a very real sense for a person to look at the things out from a self point of view. Then furthermore, to the community point of view. Then furthermore, to the whole city point of view. So if, for example, I would like to change the things for the people or advise the people from a technical point of view, look at the parks, the open areas where utilization are minimum in the dark time, let's say in the off times. Why we should keep it switch on?
Yeah.
Dubai municipality is taking very good steps toward doing such kind of activity, and more in many municipals and towns they are doing. So creating that kind of a patch in lighted city, so people can go there, look at the things out, appreciate the things, and come back and use it at their place. Then the thing which I was talking about, the wiseness, spreading the knowledge of how wise you should be toward your health.
Yeah.
I would not say about the light first. I would say toward your health. Should you have enough amount of time of sleeping and doing the activity and this and this? Shall we look that activity should be in daytime, not in nighttime? So gradually and systematically changing the habits will lead to amazing and very big changes in life of people, in environment, and bringing the dark sky back to the table.
Understood. All right, Paulina, I have a question because you've been fairly for a long time advocate for this particular movement, let's say, or this particular goal or target that we are all hoping for. What are the challenges that you typically face to educate your customers, your end user, to show them the benefits or at least prepare them for what to expect? Because obviously it's not their typical projects that they'll be facing that they're familiar with for many years. So do you have a certain approach or kind of advice that you usually tend to approach these kind of clients by educating them?
Yes. So normally the big challenge is to convince them that I will copy the sentence that Hassan says. It's not about turning off the things, it's about turning it on with wisdom I love that, what he said. So a good lighting design doesn't have to be a cause of light pollution. On the contrary, so when we design something with all the tools that we use in indoor lighting, avoid glare, use the light just when it need, in the surface when it needed, and not so much that you can, when you understand how visual perception works, um, the we can see during the night with very, very low levels compared to the daytime lighting levels. So the night allows us to use low levels, uh, just enhance what we want to see, and that makes beautiful. And you can do amazing, beautiful lighting design. So the biggest challenge first is to convince them that it's not the darkness that we are wanted to achieve. Is the best as we can with the good enough lighting levels to see an amazing outcome, and also try to convince them with projects, with examples, because there's a lot of good examples of good lighting design that they say, oh, but this looks amazing, and there is not light pollution, or there is not excessive lighting, there is not intrusive lighting.
Yeah.
So I think the future of lighting design outdoor is to consider this challenge of make the good, all the good, the good tools that we have to do lighting design, and avoid all the bad outcomes that comes with the irresponsible use of lights outdoor. So I think that's a big
Okay.
challenge
Okay.
to convince them.
That's a
about
valid
that.
point. That's a valid point. I think showing or appreciating by seeing more and more of these kind of examples and being available for people more. I think this is your jobs, being advocates of these kind of advantage that we all can touch and feel and experience. I think it is your duties now that you need to be passing this on. But I don't want to leave the education part, because I think it has to start from there. And questions to both Courtney and Patricia. We start by Patricia this time. Where do you think the education should start from? Because you have developers who have a vision of, I want to create a dark sky environment or experience. I have a lighting designer who's still getting to be involved in this kind of methodology. You have guests, it's a hotel, an office space, whatever that might be, who are be using these spaces. So do you think where will be the best to start from so the flow kind of goes naturally? Patricia?
Yeah, good question. And I think that we can answer it both together because we're working on several projects. But I think it's all about conveying the vision and the inspiration, right? So if we just say, we're going to create a dark sky destination, it's not enough. But if you start telling people, okay, the inspiration is to bring back the beautiful sky quality of the Arabic culture, you know, back in time, the Arabic culture used to use the North Star for guidance, and that's where we want to get inspiration from. And then from then elaborate, right, and inspire and challenge engineers. For example, I think that for both, that's one of the biggest challenges. People, operators are insecure because they think that if we are working on a dark sky project, it's going to be no light and people are going to trip and that and many other things. But as Courtney said, it's more about the contrast, right? So I think, Paulina, the contrast with very little light. If you design a place smartly, you can actually light a path. So it's not like in a city where there's a competition of buildings or anything. But it's about setting a vision, inspiring people, explain them, for example, in the case of my project, why we're doing this. We're trying to take care of the most sensitive species, such as turtles, birds, bats, and of course, at the same time, balance it with the creation of a stargazing experience. So
Okay.
what has worked for me is saying we don't want to limit your creativity. We can still do amazing lighting projects, but let's take a step back and let's look at it from a different point of view.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
No, I think it's valid, and I still think that live examples is a key to start to appreciate these things. I think people need to be exposed more and more, and there should be more of these kind of invitations for people to come and see it, see what does it take to experience this kind of luxury that is all around us and it's for free, and it's just a matter of tools to how you utilize that. Courtney, you've been to meetings before, I reckon, that you'll be sitting in a 12, 14 people and around the table, and there are electrical engineers, without the reason of raising hands, how many engineers in the room, but there are electrical engineers around one side of the table, and you'll be talking, well, I'm not sure if I want to put the bollard here because the turtles will be moving on this side, and I can see the looks on the engineer's side, or like, why are you talking about turtles? Who cares about turtles? I need to make sure that my cable is, safe from kids so they won't just chew on it or something. And similar to the public realm conversations we had before, people still talk lux levels.
Yeah.
Not only that, people still talk, no offense to anybody, we talk about like 500, 700 lux in a shopping mall. I think there was a conversation earlier on from Neolite about the 50 lux outdoors. So I'm talking like a whole different world when it comes to convincing. This is not just, let's just reduce the light levels. We're talking about reinventing the whole thing. And how do you see this? I would be reluctant to sitting in a meeting and like, well, we're not going to go with the 50 lux, we're going to go with like one.
Well, I mean, I think, Wally, to your point of like it starts with education, I think that's a really important point. The project that I worked in Oman on, where, that was a massive fight, actually, at the beginning. It was a huge disconnect between the operator who wanted dark sky, who were concerned about the turtle nesting site. You would travel for 15 minutes before you even approach this property. So, in pure darkness, by the time you actually reach the property, I mean, you need about 5 lux to see, right? So it was a huge challenge. So what I, at that point, did was take my lux meter, which I have, because we all have our lux meters as designers, and I went to the Chetty in Muscat. And I walked around with the engineers, and I just said, what do you think the light level is in this space? And then I walked into another space, and then we walked outside, and their opinion was that the lobby was 350 lux, that, the Magulus was maybe 200 lux. And I said, okay, let's look at the meter. We're at 50 lux here, we're at 10 lux right here, we're at 25 over here, but you see this moves as I move, right? And you're walking in and out of shadow and light. And I said, are you comfortable, and can you see, and can I see you, and can you see my eyes, and are you feeling good at this moment? And I think it was that crazy moment for them, to be honest, because it was the first time they were ever challenged as, what do you think this, what is this lux level? And a lighting designer asking them what they thought. And I think it resonated a bit with them. And after that, all the lux level calculations got thrown right out the window, and we could move on with what we wanted to do and design a really great space and a destination for people to go. And I think, so it starts a lot with the education, and it starts a lot with the designers really trying to explain what lux levels really are. And we've got it in multiple books. We have IES and we have ASHRAE, and these are great, but this doesn't really work in all dark environments. So you have to really push that and try to educate. And I think it starts there, and then I think it's then again all coming together in the end.
Okay. And Paulina, to stay on the design part of things, and I know you're involved in the design aspects quite a bit. So do you think from a public realm and exterior point of view in dark sky environments, all right, or dark sky preservation resorts, or going to be whatever that might be, do you think the role and the creativity of lighting designers are diminishing because there is really not much you should be doing aside from just a safe navigation, because there is more important things to be looking at than a light fixture or even a corridor or pathway. So it's minimal for safety, but the creativity of a lighting designer, do you think it is very stringent and very limited in these kind of development, or you still feel that there is a room for so many ideas, pretty much open book? We cannot hear you. We cannot hear you somehow.
Okay, now can you hear me?
Perfect.
It's okay? Okay. No, I think on the contrary is the biggest challenge because the lighting design here is is not as big as in Dubai, I think. So probably the right decisions and the key solutions are in our hands, you know, because first the one thing that in lighting design we study is visual perception. And it's very tricky because numbers are not what you think they are. For instance, 1 lux doesn't mean anything to visual perception because during the night, our eye is so flexible and so adaptable, and the eye will always adapt to the brightest point. So during the day, we can have in a normal day, probably in Dubai, 100,000 lux. And a full moon in a natural condition, you see everything with a full moon, and probably is 0.3 lux. So our eyes at night works in a different way. It's another type of visual perception, where the cones work, we are more perceptive to motion and contrast. It's a different thing. So it's on the contrary, we can design the night with a lot of possibilities and make it more beautiful, and also avoid all these wrong outcomes that uh, comes with the light when there is no design, you know?
Yeah.
Because right now, outdoor lighting in general is just about putting a light pole with a bright light to the needs of the car, and that's it, and not designed for the visual perception of the people and with all the
Exactly.
concern that we have to have about the nature. So I think it's on the contrary. We in lighting design we have more tools to do beautiful things and control the light pollution.
Interesting. I mean, if you think about it, no matter how glamorous a city is and how active, you're still going back to the candlelight dinners. And you feel like this is where you come together and it's just this cozy environment, least amount of light, and just inhabitly, that's where we belong for millions of years. So I think I get it. Like I know that, but it needs a lot of education and a lot. I think it's a long shot, particularly in this part of the world, but it's a must. It's essential, and people deserve to have that experience. I think it's really important. But speaking of people, David, and I know that you collect a lot of data on a daily basis, whether it's traffic, whether it's going to be feedback from customers, whether it's going to be from the industry, so many variables, and vision of municipalities and governments. So my question to you, and I know it's a little bit tricky, but when you get a feedback from citizens, right? This street is too dark. This street is too yellow. This facade is just too dark. I just don't like my house being like this, whatever that might be. That's a one way. That's a one side of the story. There is another side of the story of, no, the government spends a lot of time and effort and money for researchers to say that there has to be cutoff, wild animal rights, so and so and so many other things that it's important for the city on a city level. But if it contradicts with what the public needs today, how do you mitigate that? How can you work around that? Or what's a strategy? What is a typical strategy? Because I'm looking at it from a government level, but also from on a smaller scale developers, when you find that there is a feedback that this place is just simply too dark, but it is right, there are all proven facts that this is what we want to aim for. So, but you need to please
Okay, so we're about to change all the lights on Abu Dhabi Island from the traditional high-pressure sodium, the mercury vapors, the mercury halides, to LED.
Okay.
At the same time, we're actually reducing the lighting levels because traditionally it's been very high.
Yeah.
So lots of the complaints come from people who say, oh, it's now so low, it's so different. Now this is only historical. This was lighting design very badly designed because we had a limited amount of lamps we could use. We could use 400 watt or we could use 1,000 watt, nothing else. What we do now, and we've just released a video for our project, our newer project, that explains to people that LED will be longer lasting. We won't have so much going to landfill, so much wastage. We also have enough light to see the streets, to see the people, because we've benchmarked on international standards. But we also say to them, here's the environmental impact that we're having. We're reducing by this amount of carbon dioxide being put into the air. We're reducing this amount of waste to landfill. Right? We're reducing disruption to the traffic because the lights will be on. They won't be broken down all the time because we've carefully studied this. And we released this, and we do get feedback from people. We do get feedback saying now they understand because the environment. More people are so much more aware of global climate and climate change. And people are willing to start to listen. We do have the points where we have the villas with all the lights around. I live in an Emirati neighborhood.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, so when I walk along the streets, I see this. The streets outside my house are solar lit, right? Because this is what we're trying to promote. Reduce carbon emissions, make lighting better. As you said, lighting levels are not all about what your eye can see. Right? Your eye is very bad at judging lighting levels. It's very good at judging uniformity. If you have a street that's very uniform, but the lighting level is lower, you will feel far more comfortable because you can see so much around you, you can see so far ahead. Now, the whole point is to make designers aware of this. I gave a presentation yesterday and it showed two photographs. One with a street that was stripes. And this was a new design. One with a street that was very uniform. The very uniform street used 30% less energy because it was looked at not from a compliance view, but from a lighting design view. Somebody gave me a phrase yesterday and they said, people are Dialux monkeys because all they look in Dialux is for these little 5 green ticks.
Yeah.
They don't actually understand design.
Yep.
This is all they look for. This is a compliant design. I can make a compliant design with 2 high masts in the street that's very bad. But it complies with Dialux. It's how you use Dialux. We're trying to train designers. The new version of our lighting manual has a whole section on design. It tells people how to design. I've seen it, they work out the spacing and they start at this end of the street and they go 40, 40, 40, 40, 40. They miss the junctions. They miss the pedestrian crossings, right? Now, everybody must design the conflict areas, then join the dots.
Right.
It's not rocket science, but it's what a designer does. So, yes, we have to train people. We are seeing people who, mainly in this region, are not people who have lighting experience. They don't have a qualification. I have courses, I have lots of credentials to do with lighting and how lighting design was done. Unfortunately here, maybe the telecom guy is not busy, so let's give him a lighting design. Dialux is free. Play with the numbers, play with the figures.
Yeah, but
This is an issue.
I get your underlying message of all this. Is and back to the education part. We have been fighting our fight for a long time. Like till this very morning, I was fighting. What is a lighting designer? Something that we're very primitive about in so many ways. But I like your approach. I like the power you have because it's basically, yeah, this is for the best of the city, And you guys should do it, and there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 logical reasons. Follow it. Right? You know it is for the best. You have all supporting researches to back your story up, which is fantastic. Which gets us to the point, just to conclude that part from my side, I think for us to deliver the message across, I think the education needs to start from the upper level and funnels down, because we have thought from the ground up, and it usually gets stopped midway for so many variables, get lost and you get distracted. So I think we need to start by governing this and try to propose it and promote it and just make it more available for people, and try to show people the advantages of having it, because without it, really it's gonna take probably 20, 30 times longer than it is. And I think we will need support of the government, we need support of other big entities to drive this across. Anyway, because I want the last 5 minutes to be for any questions, and I would like to get some questions from the team. Last thing I want to get, Dr. Hassan, because I told you I want to ask you a question. So, the black hole, what is it? And because as far as I know, with my humble experience, that's the one thing that light cannot reach or cannot go through. So can you just very briefly, for people who are interested in it, what happens when the light passes through? Where does it go?
Well, there is a theories for that,
Yeah.
more than the facts, because we don't know much about the black hole, and that's why people named it black hole. So that's for the name. Point of that, is it black or not black? That's also another big issue. So according to Professor Hawkins, he says that black hole actually, it's not black. It really emits some sort of radiation. That's called Hawking radiation, which is antimatter or something like that. Okay, without going too technical. Going back to that, the nature of the light, which is basically, it has some weight. So anything have weight, it attracts by the black hole and goes inside it, where no one knows about that. And again, speculations about could be something like a white hole somewhere else, pathway to another universe or dimension, whatever. So all are speculations. Nothing we have solid in the hand about what happens to
But
the
wait, you said light has weight?
Yes. Lights have a dual nature. The photon have a duality, where it can act as an energy and also act as a particle.
Really?
Yep.
I didn't know that.
Without go-
Anybody?
without
Anybody knew
going
that
into
light
the
has weight?
details of that.
So that's all this new stuff. Pretty interesting. Again, this guy just sees some things whenever we're able to see. All right, so the last 4 minutes, I need a couple of questions, because this team is not going to be around for a while. So please, just any questions? Yes, we have Ahmed. Please go ahead.
Hello, my name is Ahmed. I'm a lighting designer. I grew up in the city of Jeddah, which is a coastal city by the Red Sea in Saudi Arabia. And when I was a kid, we were used to drive with my family, go to Umluj, which is very close from the project the Red Sea development is. It was a very tiring trip. I think it's 4 to 5 hours drive. But beside the beautiful sea there and the nice beach, when we were sitting at the night and we could see the stars. My brother visited the place a few years ago, and he told me it's completely different now. It's just like a city where you cannot see the star even sitting by the beach. Now the Red Sea project is doing the development and following the step of the dark skies, and we hear about all these dark skies. My question is to you and to Patricia as well. So do we have any direction to implement dark skies in the city, or just gonna do it in 5-star hotel resorts, but go to the city few kilometers away, you'll see all the facade lighting, media facade, and is there something where we can do the balance between not only implement it in few areas, while the main livable cities are the same, the mess with the sky glow and all of that? Thank you.
Yeah.
Patricia?
I think I can take that question. Hi, Ahmed. I almost don't recognize you. So I'm happy that you've been to the area. And actually, just yesterday we were talking about that topic. So we are aiming to have a certification from the IDA, from the International Dark Skies Association. And one part of the requirements is that we also have a community outreach campaign to the neighboring cities. So that's one point. So we will be enhancing the lighting of Umluj and Al-Washt, and that's what we are discussing at a municipal level and also through the community. So we're creating a really nice community outreach educational program to teach people of Umluj and Al-Washt, because it's not only about street lighting. We're discussing with the municipality about the street lighting and what we can do, because there was a change, as you said. They changed it from sodium to 4,000 Kelvin LEDs. So we're trying to do something about it. But it's also about, the light pollution doesn't only come from street lights, it comes from commercial lighting, private homes, signage. So we are working on it, which is great. And it's also part of our board's requirement that we don't only take care of the Red Sea, because maybe we can create a beautiful dark sky destination, but if there's so much glow from Umluj and Al-Washt, you will actually not be seeing the stars in the best way. So just to give yourself and your family comfort, we are working on it. And I think it's part of the education, right? It's not about just looking at a project in isolation, but looking at the effect of the surroundings. Yeah.
Anybody has any further question? Please, we have one more question and then we should wrap this up.
Hi, this is Mo from the Netherlands. I have actually a comment and a question. I'll try to be brief. Many of the panel members spoke about education, and it is, educating the people is an important or key element, but in my opinion also educating commercial project developers, but also government entities and employees is as important as educating the people. And we live in amazing times where technology dark sky is the limit, literally. And things like artificial intelligence, IoT, and you name it. My question is, how can we use such a technology and have these bright people work closely with lighting designers to create something that we can use to incorporate the vision that all of you guys have into strategies that we can use in projects and also in government policies?
I can start with something just off the top of my head. I think given the fact that technology has excelled quite a bit, and there has been a lot of the Revit and the BIM and all these three-dimensional virtual environments that you can build, I think the technology needs to pay us back now, because we try to bring them to the point. Now, we push their boundaries for so many years to become as innovative as they are right now. But as you see, a big part of the education is experience. And we're not waiting for 20, 30 years for some developments to come in place, for reinventing the wheel, for going back to new or to the basics. I think if the technology industry can try to demonstrate the value of dark sky through demonstrating how this particular, let's say Dubai, if they don't use this kind of street lighting for a certain period of time, this is how it's stimulated. So it's something that can be collaborated with astronomy centers, it can be with designers, it can be with many entities. But the biggest challenge that I find personally when it comes to education is how I cannot tell you how beautiful is the sky. You have to see it yourself. No matter who tells you that, you have to experience it. And I think big part also, to be fair to developers, for them to try to convince their customers that this is the best for 1, 2, 3, 4 reasons, they need to start visualizing that and not to realize it. Technology can produce this virtually in a very accurate and collaborated way. So that's one thing we can start with. But is the technology ready there now to do that?
If you just allow me to comment. In my opinion, it's the balance between the needs of the people. That's where this the education wish comes from. And the balance between this wish of a need for light and with how we want this strategy to work to preserve a dark sky. And I think technology can be used in that matter to balance between this need and the vision that we have for a dark sky. And I don't think that's something we have to wait for a couple of years to achieve.
No, not really. But bear in mind something, that the need, that's my opinion, by the way, please feel free to chime in. But I think the needs and what we're looking at right now is really far away from one another. We're still looking at prescriptive requirements, very high level of illumination, and certain kind of standards that they're used to for so many years. But you're looking at the exact opposite spectrum of, not requirement, but environments you want to create. So you cannot really put both. Like, for instance, I can tell you, for instance, there is this new car has so and so and so and so. Well, this is not what I need. I have my own car, we're good to go. For me to convince you that, because it's far away from what you have already planned for, then it has to be more of a touched experience, in my opinion, because it just gets to be really hard to pass this information across. I can speak from the design point of view. For us to convey the message that lighting design is important is already exhausting as it is, and the message goes across by 10-15% of the time. All right. So to push that even further beyond, we have some facts when it comes to lighting design, but we don't have as existing experience we can translate to end users that we can use as a reference. And this is where I think still technology can add value. Anybody wants to add to that?
Yeah, well, as government, we sit on many strategy committees. We sit with Department of Energy, we sit with the electricity companies, we sit with the traffic sections. We look at exactly the needs of the people, right? So we know that in the likes of the avenues, the boulevards, the highways, the lighting levels are required to a certain level. It's part of safety. But what we know is that after the peak hours, we can actually reduce the lighting levels. So we have smart systems now that do this automatically. Right, the first smart system is going to be installed, it's just installed in Abu Dhabi now as part of our big project. Right, and we will dim the lights at night. We will take away all of that huge amounts of lights that's being wasted into the streets and all that energy that's being wasted. But we're going to do it on a strategic basis. We know that we're not going to do the junctions. We keep the junctions brightly lit because this is where accidents happen. So we've looked at statistics. We'll say the residential areas, well, we can lower the lights and we can dim them earlier, or we can switch them on later. We can switch them off earlier. But when it comes to the avenues, we change the times. I'm working on this now. I have a spreadsheet as big as a screen, right, to try and work out all the different switch on, switch off times throughout the year because they change, right? So now we're looking at this and we're looking at from an energy saving, a maintenance saving. We are increasing the life of the LEDs by using them less, by using them not to full power. All of this is part of a 2030 strategy for power and water within Abu Dhabi, right? We're looking at how we reduce AC usage. We make higher quality AC with better ratings. We're giving time and money to restart to replace them, right? The biggest things we're doing is we're installing solar lighting. We're installing solar rooftops. We're doing everything to do e-charging, right? So we have a smart city concept. It's starting to be implemented now. And we're feeding all of our data into this. We have smart irrigation. We know when to water the plants. We know the soil is moist. Why are we watering?
So, David, when these street lights will be on? Because I would like to drive and see it when it's in action.
Okay, the installation started Thursday last week.
Okay, so next week it will be up and running and we should be good to
They're
go.
not going to do 43,000. The 43,000 lights will be installed in 15 months' time.
Okay.
So the whole of Abu Dhabi Island.
Just to add one thing to that, I think it's really important that the consumers and general public have accessibility to these types of technology. I mean, now you can walk into Ace Hardware and buy LED lamps. You can also just go down to your local store and you can buy an LED option. That was not there 15, 20 years ago. I think you know, again, that's just bringing in the educational aspect, but, you know, the organizations that can support and can give some kind of certification to that, and just be able to give that light bulb that might be IDA certified or another, you know, government agency certified, and then allowing them, just, that goes to the general public instead of just us as lighting designers who have control and, you know,
Well, that's correct.
what we do, but yeah.
In Abu Dhabi, we have Abu Dhabi QCC.
Yep.
No LED can be installed unless you have QCC certification. Doesn't happen in Dubai.
No.
But what we're finding now is Ras Al Khaimah, Umar Quain, Sharjah are now asking, well, do you have QCC approval for your luminaires? We're seeing the same being asked in Saudi, right? They're now saying, do you have this QCC approval? We're trying to do things correctly.
Well, now,
Yes,
now
but-
the borders are open, so I think we can have this kind of conversation much easier. Now we can travel and have this communication with you.
We
much
can
easier.
now do this, yes.
So I think we should be good to go.
Just I would like to
And we could
to say
discuss all day,
something.
I'm sure.
It's a very good opportunity for us as Dubai Astronomy Group with Light Middle East. Let's create an initiative or action plan. If you are interested to work with us, we have initiative of the dark sky concepts and ideas where we are educating people with it. I'm opening our hands to come and shake with us. Let's make it next year in Light Middle East to showcase something, what we can achieve.
Yeah.
And I'm opening the hand to everybody to come down, work with us, talk with us. Let's develop things which we can convert our verbal talks to practical things. And I think I can take you to the destinations where you're going to mesmerize your eye and your brain with the night sky.
So by raise of hands, how many people will be interested to have a trip to this kind of destination?
Thank you. You are all welcome, inshallah.
All right, good stuff. That's something we can talk about. All right, I would like to wrap this up. Paulina, thank you so much from across the world. So I appreciate your checking in there. Thank you very much for all the panelists. Courtney, Patricia, David,
you.
and Hassan. Thank you very much, and thank you all for listening. And thank you all.